Hi again, everybody. Cathy McLeish, and we're here with our series on alcoholism. Today, we're going to talk about the big, hard question, and that is, do you really think you're only hurting yourself? And stick around. If you're really the tough alcoholic that we think we are, stick around and hear me out on this and see if you can't look in the mirror and get honest about a few of these ideas and a few of these questions in your own life. So, are we only hurting ourselves? If somebody comes to us and says, you drink too much, this is getting old, can you show up once in a while? You're late for work, you're never going to the kids' events. And we say, get off my back, I'm only hurting myself. And I want to just, roll that back and look at some situations in our lives, in my life as a practicing alcoholic, and in hindsight, see how much I was hurting everybody in my life. Now, we'll take it maybe from the outside and then come on in. And I look at my work relationships. I had a job at one time that what I did affected whether or not my boss got bonuses. And it was a driving job, it was a delivery job. And as fast as I went, as much as I did, it all reflected on him as far as him being my manager and how much he would get in his bonuses. When I had that vehicle, and back in the 80s, I didn't have a vehicle at home. We had one vehicle. My husband drove it to work. So I had this vehicle and I would get alcohol, take it back to my home. On the clock, I would drink on the clock, sitting in one space so I wasn't driving around drinking on the clock. One time, I actually, having been drinking, I ran in to do a delivery, left the car in neutral, came back, and the car was driving down the hill and ran into three or four parked cars. So, I had a great excuse. I told my boss, it wasn't my fault. This is an old vehicle. Went in to put it in park, slipped into neutral. There's all kinds of excuses that we have. But when I look back, if I hadn't been drinking, that never would have happened. And it reflected on my boss as my boss, and I could have cared less. I was oblivious to that fact. In fact, I'm sure I laughed about it over and over again with anybody that would listen to the story. So having a job where I steal from the job. I can remember not making people pay when I worked at certain facilities. I can remember, sliding things through when I worked at certain jobs. I also can remember coming late, leaving early, clocking in at different times that weren't maybe accurate for where I was at. And, if you are kind of feeling self-righteous and be like, I never did that. That is really bad. If I ever did that, I would think I was bad. Well, you know what? I had a capacity to be a really good worker. I did. Alcoholics on our own, if we aren't drinking, we are some of the most brilliant people. We are capable, we are hard workers, we are fast thinkers, we are problem solvers, and if we are at our best, we can really show off at work. We can make somebody really happy that they employed us. And so, for the most part, when I was a practicing alcoholic, I was never that person at work. I was as good as the next guy. I was probably better than several of them. But you know what? That's what I do. I compare myself to somebody else. I find somebody else that is operating at a lower level than me, whether it's a parent, whether it's a daughter, whether it is a coworker, and I say, I do better than them, when really all I need to compare myself to is myself. And am I doing the best that I can do? Am I the best worker, mother, daughter, sister, friend, neighbor that I can be? Because you can always look around and find someone that's doing a worse job than I am. I mean, but is that who I want to be? Is that who I am? Is that who I was created to be? So, am I only hurting myself? In my relationship with my parents, we're going to move a little closer. I went to college on a scholarship that my dad earned as a disabled vet, okay? So not only did my dad really want all of his kids to graduate from college because He had that. As a father of 10, he couldn't give us everything, but that was really a perk. That was really a gift. And you know what? I blew it. I went 3 years, and as I drank more and I drank more, my focus was not on the goal. My focus was on drinking, on the guy I wanted in my life. I'll do what I want to do. And I left that college after 3 years. To this day, every time my daughters were in college and they got to their junior year, I was like, are they going to make it? They were not me. But that is what I did. I turned my back on that opportunity and walked away. And, I later went back and finished in my 50s. I later went back and finished. My dad was a part of that. That was kind of a beautiful amends that my dad could see that happen. Also, still on that VA scholarship, because it never expired. Isn't that hilarious, or isn't that beautiful? I don't know. But anyways, I never thought about putting my parents through sleepless nights, disappointing them when my choices that I thought were only hurting myself also broke their dreams, the hopes and the dreams that they had for me, that they could give me, that they could support me in. And then I would just pull the rug out from under them and think, so what's it to you? I'm the one that has to face all my friends. I'm the one that didn't graduate. It's on me. What does it have to do with you anyway? And then I go on to being married, to being a partner. And mine is really kind of hazy because I was married to an alcoholic in my first marriage. And so I saw what his alcoholism did to our kids. And at the same time, looking back, I know that he saw what my alcoholism was doing to my kids. Mom, is Dad going to be at my game? No, I think he has to work late. When really, he's probably going to stop off at a bar again. And you see the disappointment in their face, and then they kind of perk up and say, it's okay, in that fake way of like, this is my life, and I'm going to put on my happy face and go on so I don't disappoint them while they disappoint me. And so, I go through this family life, and I am maybe a 25%, operating at 25% as a spouse. And I think, if he would do this, if he would do that, I wouldn't be this way. But again, comparing myself only to myself. What do I offer my spouse? I heard one guy in recovery say it so beautifully. He said, I never thought about the fact that my spouse had dreams too. That they woke up in the morning and they had goals for their life. And I spent my life unintentionally, but very obviously, sabotaging their goals and their dreams. Did we go on a vacation? Did we run around with friends? Did I invest any time in his family? Did I nurture any of the relationships of the people that were important to my spouse? Did I show up for something, at his work and make him proud? Did I even talk to them about what they do when they leave the house and they're gone for 40 hours? Do I even invest, or am I even intentional about conversations that I have about their goals, their dreams, their day-to-day life? Or am I just, where's my next drink? Get out of my face. I deserve this. I worked hard today. I don't need to do this. You don't need me for that. Those are the excuses that I would make so that I could get off by myself doing what I wanted to do while I only hurt myself. So it is a tough question. It is a question that we as alcoholics just table. We think we have the answer to it and we're satisfied with our answer. But if we would go outside of ourselves and ask anybody else, and maybe you can't ask the 8-year-old if he's disappointed that we didn't show up to talk to his teacher on teacher night, and that he was the one that had to sit in the desk and say why. Maybe he won't say, yeah, that sucked, Dad, you're a loser. That sucked, Mom. You were watching TV and you couldn't get up and go. I saw you, They can't maybe have that conversation, but maybe we could reach outside of ourselves to a stable person in our life and say, what do you see? I think I'm only hurting myself with the way I drink. I don't think it's a problem. Can you honestly tell me what you see? A coworker, the boss is going to fire you. As far as I hear through the grapevine, you got about one more chance. The neighbors. I would be embarrassed to be your partner. I would be embarrassed to have that lawn. I'd be embarrassed to have my house looking the way it does. I would be embarrassed to be your partner. A friend. I see the pain in your kids' eyes. I see your wife. She is like the walking dead anymore. She has no joy in her face. We could get that information if we wanted that information, if we really wanted truth spoken to us so that we could see the truth and maybe make a change. In our own minds, our denial will never help us answer this question. I have to believe in my heart. Otherwise, who am I? I'm a piece of shit, And that is really not true. What I am is I'm a person with an addiction that needs to be humble enough to say, I can't do this on my own. I need help. And you know what? Honest to gosh, I got sober for other people in my life. They always say, do it for yourself, do it for yourself. I didn't care enough about myself in the end to do it for me. I did it for my children. And then in that process of breaking me down and building me back up, I learned to love myself. And today I do the things I do in my life because I love myself. Do I love everybody else in my life? I do. My kids are so important to me. My partner is so important to me, and their happiness is important to me. I can honestly say I care about their dreams. I support them in their goals. But in the beginning, I couldn't care enough about myself to do it. And so if that's all I have, if that's what I have, do it for my mom who can't sleep nights. Do it for my sister that is talking to me all the time in tears. Do it for my daughter that thinks I'm going to die of alcoholism. Do it for those people that sound just a little bit crazy, because truly I think I'm only hurting myself. And it's really not true. There's that pebble in the pond analogy, and it is perfect for when we're drinking and for when we're sober. Because when we're drinking, we are pebble in the pond, disastrous. We affect everybody that gets close to us in a negative way. And they can't help it unless they leave. And even if they leave, we've left a void in their life. We need to be responsible for that too. When I didn't show up, I left big voids in my children's lives, in my parents' lives, in my siblings' lives. Everybody has a dream of what their relationships will look like. And as a practicing alcoholic, I'm oblivious to that. But is that an excuse? I think that in all honesty, in the depths of my heart, I know, I've seen that pain in their eyes. You know what? Honestly, I drank at that pain that I saw in my loved ones' eyes. I drank at that disappointment that I knew my parents had. I stayed away from them. And in staying away and isolating, I could tell myself it just wasn't true. But it was. It was. So, am I only hurting myself? Those days are gone if you think you have a problem with alcohol. If you are at the point where you are even interested in a video like this to ask yourself the question, am I only hurting myself? The answer is yes. And that is not the end of the world, because there is a solution. And the solution is there for everyone. You hear this message and you have heard the truth. And the truth is like a gem. It's like if we can take it and work with it and make a phone call and talk to somebody and just break through enough denial to show up in a place where I can get some help, I am on my way. One little nugget of truth can change the trajectory of my entire life if I allow it to. So please, hear, listen, digest a little bit of truth, swallow a little bit of hard truth today, and take a step forward. I did, and it wasn't easy. But you know what? It was a lot easier than continuing on the path that I was on. I couldn't even see it at the time, how disastrous that path was. But when I got off of it, I could see the beauty of being on the other side. So, thank you for listening. Subscribe, follow, and please help to break this barrier. Help to break through this ignorance about alcoholism and be a part of the solution instead of a part of the problem. You are hurting other people besides yourself.